It's so nice to see everybody, and it sounds like from all the robust conversation, you all are ecstatic to be here, to be together, and to be able to carry on conversations in person. My name is Teresa Rose, and I am the Executive Director of Communities Foundation of Oklahoma. We are glad you could join us today to hear more about the bond vote for the Oklahoma City Public Schools and the impact that it will have on our city. Before we learn more about this topic, I would like to recognize our presenting sponsor, Cox Business. Please help me welcome Eddie Blankenship, Sales Director for Cox Business, for some comments. Ashley Perkins.
I'm just going to say, I'm the cuter, shorter version of the Eddie Blankenship. I have a lot more hair, too, just so you know. I am Ashley Perkins. I'm the Vice President of Cox Business here in Oklahoma, and I'm very excited to be here today. I have traveled over the last several thousand years, it seems like, with a small billboard that says, "Vote for Maps for Kids." And I've carried it from job to job. Because in 2001, I considered a very highlight part of my career. I was working with Drew Dugan and the many, many other leaders in the community as we passed the first Maps for Kids bond election. That was a big deal, right? And so what we'll be working on and you'll be hearing about is another big deal. We know that the economic engine of Oklahoma City rests for the next decades to come on the children in our community. They deserve, the teachers deserve, our communities deserve the best that we can offer. So what you're going to hear today is an overview around that bond election and what that means. And I'll ask you to join Cox Business and Cox Communications as we participate actively in promoting this bond election and continuing to support our children in Oklahoma City. So enjoy your lunch and enjoy the forum.
Thank you, Ashley, and all of Cox and Cox Business for supporting education so robustly. I'd also like to recognize our corporate sponsor, ADG Blatt. Are you here? Where are you? There you are. Thank you both for the work and the support that you give the Chamber. Over the past several years, Oklahoma City Public School leaders have been strategically working on efficiencies that allow them to reinvest savings back into the classrooms, adding critical staff and creating more skilled training opportunities for our students. While these initiatives have been successful despite the pandemic, the reality of increasing operational costs due to the age of the district's facilities, transportation, and equipment is an ongoing challenge. The average age of an Oklahoma City public school building is 72 years old, and there are 9 buildings that are over 100 years old. To address these challenges, the Oklahoma City Public School Board has proposed a bond issue that voters will have the opportunity to approve on November 8th. The bond will allow the district to give students and teachers across access to the same resources as those in the surrounding districts, as well as more skill training that will help our students be better equipped when they enter the workforce. Today, we'll hear more from our panelists about how this historic vote will help create equity and ensure quality education for generations to come. There is nothing more important than the future of our children, and we appreciate each of you for being here today for this important conversation. Now, before we get started on our discussion, we're going to take a short break. Please enjoy your lunch, and we'll be right back. All right. The complete biographies of our panelists are in the program, which you can scan on the card, the QR code on the tables. So first we have with us Paula Lewis, Board Chair for Oklahoma City Public Schools, Jenny Love Meyer, Chief Culture Officer and Executive Vice President for Love's Travel Stops and Country Stores, Torie Luster Pennington, President, Oklahoma City American Federation of Teachers, and Natalie Shirley, Vice Chair, Convention and Visitors Development, Oklahoma City Chamber. Please welcome our panelists. All right, this is a great group of ladies. Glad to have you up here. Thank you for making time. So Paula, why is right now the time for a bond vote?
Man, she didn't give me a chance to get this on my belt. I turned it on. I'm like, hang on a second.
The fans are
trying
waiting.
to invest in our future. That's why. No, No, first of all, Teresa, thank you and the Chamber for inviting me here today to get to talk about this really big, bold bond package that the district has put together that will be great for our kids. But it's the right time for the simplest reason is our kids need it and our kids deserve it. And then because of that, and because this board and Dr. McDaniel and his team keeps kids first, we've been working, I would say, tirelessly around the clock for the last 4 or 5 years to get to a place that we felt confident that we could come to you and say, we're ready for this. Like We've right-sized the district, we have our budget better utilized and right-sized. We've shown you that we will keep our promises. So when we did right-size the district, that meant some hard decisions, but we guaranteed that we would not leave any buildings vacant in a community, in a neighborhood, and we haven't. And within 2 years, Dr. McDaniel's team, they did. They filled those with county health department, other schools, whether it be private or charter, and so we don't have vacant buildings. So that was one big one that we came to the community and said, we promise we'll do this, we know it hasn't been done in the past, but we're gonna do it, and we did it. And then we had the pandemic, which is super hard on everybody, but Dr. McDaniel and his team said, we're gonna follow these guidelines, and you're gonna know very comfortably what's gonna happen with your students and your education, and we stuck to that. So one more time, we held our promises up. And so with all of that, now we know that we are ready, and our kids do deserve it, and our teachers deserve it, to offer the opportunities that other surrounding areas in this metro have, the state have, the nations have, because we expect our kids every single day to compete with their peers on a local and a national level. If they want to have good paying jobs, if they want to go to college, whatever that is, compete in athletics. And we know that the only way to let them truly compete is by providing the same opportunities. And so right now it's imperative in my mind that we have this bond because we are ready for it and our kids need it so that we can join the city in moving forward into this big league city that we're in. You know, we want to be a part of that and we're primed for that. That's why.
Paula, thank you. And you just laid out a number of significant projects and initiatives that the board took on, but we were talking at our table, and I want to say in front of the entire room, thank you for your leadership, because it took a leader like you to pull that board together to be able to take those big steps. So thank you so much for your commitment to our city. So Natalie, as the former Secretary of Education, you've seen firsthand the challenges school districts face. How important are these capital funds for a district to ensure that they are spending the maximum amount of general funds on the students?
Well, they're just simply essential. The funds that we are able to expend on our students today isn't equal to what we're seeing in the surrounding suburbs, the surrounding other districts, etc. So if we're going to be able to compete, if we're going to be able to create a 21st century workforce, that starts in K through 12. And providing the funds for that sort of education, for an education that is as good as you're going to get someplace else, is essential.
Thank you. Yeah, you're exactly right. We have every business is dependent on the education and the workforce development that the districts provide. So it's critically important. So Torie, none of these funds received from the bond can be used for salaries for teachers or staff. What strategies are being used by the district to attract and retain top-notch teachers?
Well, there's no surprise, especially from anyone in this room, that there's a national teacher shortage. And so the district has taken the steps similar to surrounding districts and other states to retain and attract great teachers, because we desperately need to find them. So a few of the things they've done would be using ESSER funds and pandemic relief money to provide incentives and retention bonuses and to attract teachers, and especially in the areas that are most needed. But I will say this year that has definitely helped. We talked about earlier that we started the year with a 98% fill rate for our teachers. We also are one of the top paying districts in our surrounding area for our teachers, which is incredible when we know we don't get a whole lot of help from our state, but we need our districts to support our teachers so that they can help our students, and that's what they deserve. But another thing with this bond, even though the bond money can't go towards teacher salaries, it will really help free up some of the resources and the general funds to be able to pay for maintenance and these projects of these buildings that we heard earlier that are so old and so many issues that happen in these buildings. But it will free up some of those funds so that we are able to possibly pay our teachers more and to just reward them for staying and educating our students of Oklahoma City.
Thank you. So Jenny, from the business perspective, why is passing this bond so important?
Yeah, to be able to really, as Natalie said, prepare us for a 21st century workforce, but really when you look a little bit more granular, the idea is that with preparing kids to be able to do, achieve what they are capable of achieving, is first of all dependent on the education that they receive, which is highly dependent on the things that are involved with this bond issue. But the other thing is that the demand for employment is high right now. It's no surprise that businesses have a hard time right now as a whole recruiting and retaining folks. And so the ability to be able to graduate kids at a higher level and to be able to prepare them to do whatever, whether it be to go into college or whether it be going to a trade school or a VOTEC, all those things are within the reach, but at the base level, they really need to have that experience at in their education to be able to achieve what they're capable of.
Thank you. So Paula, back to you. Enrollment for the district is up by 2,000 students from this time last year. That's remarkable.
It's incredible.
Why has the district been successful in bringing families back?
Before I answer that, can I go back to Torie's question about what we do to retain teachers? I want to give a shout out to our foundation and some programs we have there that have been strategic in bringing teachers into the classroom that look like our students, because we know that's important. So the foundation is running a bilingual pathway and a diversity pathway that if you're an MA in our district or a teacher's assistant TA, that you can apply and the foundation pays for your college to become a certified teacher. And I don't remember exactly the numbers now that we've had, but this has been a fairly successful program that people are staying in our clinic. So that's one of the ways that we're using to attract our teachers on that. And I'm just proud of that. Again, that's part of the 2000 though, right? I mean, I started on this board 7 years ago. Dr. McDaniel came in 5 years ago. We were not a choice district. We were not doing things that let the community trust us, that parents believed that we were going to do what was right with their kids. And so we set a vision that we wanted to put kids first, and we needed to not just provide a great education for a kid, but we needed to meet them where they were. We needed to fill their needs. And that's what a parent wants. I'm a parent, Torie's a parent in the district. I mean, we know when we drop our kids off, we're dependent upon those teachers and those principals and those building leaders to care for our kids, meet them where their needs are, listen to them, and educate them. But we know that kids can't be educated until we've met them at their basic level of needs, whether that be their food insecurities or mental wealth and mental wellness and health. And so I believe the reason we're growing is the board set the intention that we were no longer going to be a declining district. We knew we were, we saw the numbers, we had all the stats, but there was no reason to be declining in the middle of a growing city. And so what did we have to do to figure that out? And there's multiple things. I mean, upholding promises, I've already talked about that. There's bringing quality teachers in. There's professional development, all kinds of, our branding, you know, we have our new branding, that we have our lovely bird here that flies around all over the place. And our comms team, we can't say enough about telling our own story. When I first got on the board, the only thing I ever heard about OKCPS other than what my kids were bringing home was, you know, what we heard on the news, and that was maybe the one kid out of 36,000 that made a bad decision that day. We weren't talking about the other, you know, 33,999 kids that were doing great things at school, that were participating with teachers that cared about them. And so our communications team has really turned that around, and we've started talking about the things we do offer, because when you're in an urban district, you offer diversity that nobody else can offer. You offer, and that is our strength. The diversity is what makes OKCPS really amazing and has the ability to be that workforce that you guys want, because we know that that is the future. All of that together, that's why we're at 2,000. So for me, as the chair, coming out of a pandemic where we lost kids, and now just a year and a half later, we are now on the upswing. Dr. McDaniel and his team are doing some phenomenal things to get us there, and the people are starting to choose us. We are starting to be the place that they think my kids will get the education that I want for them. And we're not going to be everybody's choice, right? Because people want different things for their kids, but we believe that 2,000 says we're on the right track.
Yeah, I would say so. So thank you for all that great work. Natalie, with everything you're involved in, which is a lot, you're out in the community quite a bit. What are you hearing from others regarding the school bond issue and the level of community support?
Truthfully, I'm not hearing enough. I'm not hearing enough from my neighbors, from my friends, from my colleagues about this school bond. They're now tired of hearing it from me. But what that means is that you all have to be ambassadors for this school bond. A school bond is not like the circus coming to town where everybody lines up and says, oh boy, I want to go. A school bond needs us to say, let's vote for that. I mean, it's easy to skip it on the list of things that are important to you. But it is something that we all have to be ambassadors for. I assume that because you're here today, you do believe in the school bond. And that means that you've got to proselytize, that you've got to get out there and ask for your neighbors to vote for this school bond. So I'm not hearing it enough. Unlike the circus coming to town, there's going to be a generation of people who benefit from this school bond. So get out there, talk about it, and on your tables you'll find a commitment card. I'm going to ask you that if you can find an extra $10 or commit your business to an even larger amount, we need it in order to get this vote out. The reality is that most votes are 50.1 other vote, and it'll pass. That's not the way it is with this school bond. We've got to have 60%. 60% of the people have to say that schools are important, that educating our youth are important. And the only way that can happen is if we have the money to get on the airwaves, we have the money to get the message out, and if you all get out there and help us bring that vote in.
Well, and I would 100% agree with everything you said, and you said it beautifully. The people in this room, businesses, you are the benefactors. You are the ones that will receive the benefit of the work that the school board is doing to increase the quality, to create greater skill development for our students. You all are the ones that will reap the greatest benefit for your businesses. So you have the greatest reason to get out and advocate and proselytize and share with others the importance of this bond issue. So one of the things that we talked a little bit about, and I'm going to pound on that 60% just a little bit more, we were all so excited, when the jail bond issue passed, and thought, wow, we really hit it out of the ballpark, right? If that was a school bond issue, it would have failed, because it got 59.4%. That's the threshold that we have to make. So please, talk to your neighbors, get signs. This is a really critical and pivotal moment, not just for our school district, but for our entire city. So back to my cards.
Teresa and I drag along behind us an invisible soapbox. And so all you have today is say is school, and Teresa and I'll jump right on
That's
it.
right. Today it's not so invisible. But Torie, so back to you. Following up on the question to Natalie, what are you hearing from teacher and staff? What do you anticipate the response from that group is going to be to the bond issue?
Well, I'm hearing excitement, but I would also 100% agree with Natalie that we're still not hearing enough. The teachers have endorsed the bond. We see the potential. I think a lot of it is the fear, and going back to what Paula mentioned earlier in the past and how the district has been viewed in the media in the past gives a lot of concern to teachers, to the community, but we are in the best position that we've ever been probably to make this investment. And so whenever we talk to teachers, we really, and a lot of them also bring up the fact that, well, we need raises. And that is completely true. We do. We need to pay our teachers a greater salary. They deserve it. But knowing that the bond money can't be used for salaries, this is an investment into their future, into their careers. And I was a past teacher in Oklahoma City Public Schools, and just knowing that if I was able to walk into a building that had been renovated or had state-of-the-art technology and new programs and offered all of the benefits that we will see with this bond when it passes, that would retain me. That would make me want to stay in the classroom and not go off to a suburb or a surrounding district. So it really makes a huge difference. And once we talk to teachers about that, they're really excited, and they want to see this pass. Obviously, we know that it will take time. The bond process will take time and years. But we know that we will see the investment immediately, because we also see that the community is investing in our teachers and in our community, and that is huge too.
Well, and you hit on a really good point that how the impact of a failed bond issue makes our teaching staff and our teachers and our staff feel. Mm-hmm. They just don't quite feel quite as supported, do they?
Right, exactly. And so just also by the community and a lot of business leaders that are here, just knowing that, and I think that through the pandemic, we saw the support for teachers, and so just knowing that the voters of Oklahoma County will support, or voters in the district, but that they will support our schools and in this investment for our students and our teachers, will make them feel that appreciation once more.
Thank you. We need to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So Jenny, beyond voting yes and supporting the bond issue on November 8th, mm-hmm. how can businesses in the community support Oklahoma City Public Schools?
Well, I think it's pretty easy with the platform and the ability that you'll have, being able to send educational messages to your employees is pretty easy. And then being able to, in your own neighborhood, in your own circle of friends, being able to talk about it. I think they're two ways that aren't that hard to do.
That was easy, just 1, 2. Natalie, so you saw the importance of K-12 education in your former role as Secretary of Education, but also as the former Secretary of Commerce. What's the importance of skill training to grow our economy?
It's really as simple as Jenny responded. Our economy's not going to grow. It's not going to grow. without educated students, without students that are willing to dig in and learn, without families who are willing to dig in and support their students. We must have an educated workforce, whether it's K through 12 and they go on to a job immediately, they go to career tech, they go to college, whatever it is, if they don't have that foundational K through 12 education, we're not going to grow. And when we don't grow, when we stop growing, we're actually just dying a little bit. It'll just take a little bit longer than if we had some enormous natural disaster. So this is our opportunity to invest in not just your kids' future, but your future. Your future. We will immediately begin to see positive impact from this bond. And so voting yes, putting your dollars towards helping us get the message out is just going to be essential for our short term as well as our long-term future.
Natalie, can you also talk a little bit from your former Secretary of Commerce role about recruiting businesses and how the workforce and the skilled, having a skilled workforce impacts our ability as a city and a state?
In economic development, there is one question that businesses ask now. One question, not how much, in incentives will I get, not is there a place for me to live. The one thing they ask is, what does the workforce that I want to recruit look like? How many are there, and can I find what I need? Can I find educated students, educated people that are investing in education? That is the single most important job. And so when I arrived here 15 years ago and became Governor Henry's Secretary of Commerce, in order for us to recruit a large employer, we actually drew our circle around the Big 12 because we couldn't get enough. We couldn't get enough educated people to tell a business that they could indeed find the employees that they wanted. That's not true today. Today we could draw that circle here in Oklahoma, and depending upon the business, here in Oklahoma City. But that won't continue to happen. And I know I'm just beating this drum, and pretty soon I'm gonna lock the doors until everybody agrees to vote, and everybody agrees to...
And to get 10 of your friends, or maybe 100 of your friends to vote.
To support this bond issue. We now, we're, as Paula described, we're on the edge of being great and building something that is going to last for generations, but that you're going to see the benefit of immediately. So I hope I answered it. but
That was
there you go.
perfect. Yep, that was perfect. So I want to go ahead and I'm giving y'all the 5-minute warning. We're going to open it up to questions in just a minute. So we'll have people floating with microphones for you to ask questions. So please start thinking of your questions. But I was going to ask the panel, closing comments. Any closing last things that you want to say about either the bond issue or supporting the bond issue that you haven't already? So,
I have
Paula?
a huge soapbox, but I'll let
Okay.
people talk first. I've got a big one too. Go ahead. Okay. Well, one thing I kept listening to both Jenny and Natalie talking about is this workforce we're going to create. We really didn't talk about how the bond's going to do that, and it's phenomenal. If you could go into our website and look at it, the flex spaces or the career and college readiness spaces that will go into every one of our high schools, and we'll partner with our Metro Techs and trade unions, and there'll be anything from theater to cosmetology to pipe fitting to STEM. We're creating a new flex space down at Southeast, more for aerospace. So that's how we're going to do it, is we're going to, across this district, bring in huge spaces that can be moved around and have the kids access where they can see what their opportunities are at a young age. So I just wanted to talk about that's why this is important on there. Other than that, is the other thing that's unique about this will be the first bond in Oklahoma City history that is, Dr. McDaniel's team is saying everything will be off the ground within 5 to 7 years. So you will immediately across this district see projects start working. So it won't be, we're still using some 2016. We're almost done with all that. And that's pretty fast, honestly, for us. That's about 6 years, and that was really a pretty small bond. But that's one thing, too, is that our kids now that are like in kindergarten, they're going to see this. They're going to be in some of those new flex spaces. Actually, fourth graders will see some of those new spaces. And that's how quickly we can turn around the workforce with this bond.
What I might say too is there's been a lot, the history with Oklahoma City Public Schools has been interesting, but what I would say is having the confidence that this, not only the school, Paula's not going to say this, but with the school board and how well they're running, and then Superintendent McDaniel and how he's making decisions, everyone in the school apparatus is aligned to this and would be able to execute on a bond issue of this size. So wanted to mention that.
Now, I was going to bring up the flex space and what a benefit that is for our students and the workforce in general. So thank you, Paula, for bringing that up. But also, just as a reminder that the bond will touch every single school in our district. And we have 66 schools, is that correct? Yeah. 66 schools. And so that is huge. There was a lot of work. There was a committee that worked really hard for months, almost a full year, of deciding what kinds of projects and how much money would be spent. And it was a very thoughtful process, and there's still oversight, and will continue to be oversight throughout the process of this bond. So it's not just for one area, it's not for just one part of the district or just the high schools or just the elementary, but it is a beneficial bond package for every school, every student, every teacher in this district.
And then finally, I think that this will immediately impact our students in that Superintendent McDaniel will no longer have to make choices. Do I fix a roof, or do I provide a needed service? We are not going to have to make those choices anymore. We're not going to have to take funds to fix an HVAC system out of this year's budget and be able to use those funds for educating our children as opposed to simply keeping them safe and dry.
Thank you. So we've got a couple of people posted around with microphones. So questions? Yes, sir.
I just want to thank you for the focus on the trades and the opportunities there for young people. I need a plumber a lot more often than I need a lawyer.
True. As a lawyer, you're right, yes.
Only Jack could do that.
So being a big advocate of Dr. McDaniel and the foundation, I got to go to the Wall of Fame the other night. If we've got that on video, you just need to show it. If that can't sell it, nobody can. This and any promotional items, all the way down to signs. Do we have that electronically?
That's a real question for you guys.
So, Cynthia, do you want to talk about getting signs? Or
We do have signs. They are at the chamber offices. You're welcome to swing by and pick one up. We'll be distributing most of those right before the vote in key places around the city, close to polling places, to remind people to go and vote for the bond. But we do have them. We do want to make sure that they go in places inside the district as well. The other thing that we'll send all of our members information that they can share with their employees and that they can send to friends, et cetera, as we get closer to the vote. So look for those the week before as early voting begins. And then we'll also send some information out about absentee, the last day to request, and things of that nature. So please make sure we're helping get out the vote on those fronts.
Thank you. Questions? Yes. JD?
Hi, good afternoon. I'm pretty familiar. I've looked at the whole bond package and everything, and I'm not sure everyone in the room has. Could we get like a high level overview, like what they all consist of, the dollar amount, the buckets, and whatnot?
Sure. Paula, you want to talk about the buckets?
Sure. Well, you'll see two proposals on your ballot, because one transportation by law has to be separate. And we move about 7,000 kids a day just back and forth to school, but then more than that move through on activities and different things. So we'll have that on there. And then the other one is really what the district broke it down into kind of two areas in their mind. And if I mess up, Scott, wherever you're at, help me out here. But there's one that's kind of the transformational piece, which is what we're really excited about. That's the piece that if we can, get those new flex spaces in and, just really support our kids and create pride. I mean, everything is based on pride. If a kid feels good when they go in, that's that big transformational. And then other are things that the district decided we just had to have happen. A school was going to cost more to fix it, than it was to, take it offline and do something else with that school and create it. Or if a school needed extra classroom spaces. So there was some of that, and there's just HVACs that they've talked about. Scott, I'm losing ground on that one, because those are the pieces that the district is so strong right now that they partnered with someone that came in and did a facilities audit and prioritized what has to happen immediately, what can wait, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, and those were how those decisions were made. Is that kind of what you were wanting on that, JD, or you want more? Okay, is that good?
And the amount?
$955 million.
955 million. Yep.
Yes, and that's about maybe half of what we actually need. I mean, that when you look at that list of what the facilities need and what our kids deserve, this is a big, bold swing. It's some big problems. And I think our students and our teachers deserve adults that are willing to go big for them, and that's what this is.
Great question. Other questions? Okay, so you have all the information you need to go and be an advocate, to get 100 of your friends to go to the polls with you to support this bond issue. Ladies, thank you so much. We appreciate you being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very nice. Visiting with you.
Is it on? Is it on? Okay, good. Okay, so I'm sorry for all the microphone confusion, but I didn't want to do the shrieking thing again. So thank you all so much for being here for today's discussion. I'd like to again thank our sponsors for today, Cox Business and ADG Blatt. I hope that you will join us at the State of the Economy luncheon at the Cowboy Museum on November 9th, so the day after our big party of success the night before, where you will hear directly from expert economists on trends in the economy, and both locally and nationally. Thank you again so much for being here today, and we are adjourned.